Welcome to the podcast about venture capital, where investors and founders alike can learn how VCs make decisions and reach conviction. Your host is Nick Moran, and this is The Full Ratchet.
Welcome to another special release of Investor Stories. On this installment, the experts discuss a startup that they did not invest in, why they passed, and if there was a key learning that now informs their approach. Here's the segment called Why I Passed. On today's special segment, we have Ed Sim of Bold Start. Ed, can you tell us a story about a good or a bad pass, a story about a startup that you passed on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say back in my early days, I was trying to invest in web methods in the very beginning. And we ended up passing on the opportunity because when I was tied to the New York City kind of Economic Development Corporation fund, we had helped create jobs in New York, which was a worthwhile cause. And I remember asking Web Methods if they would open up a New York office. And they were a seed stage company. It was like a 2.5 pre. That was kind of one of the first big web infrastructure companies back in the day. And we missed out on that opportunity. And that company ended up becoming worth a ton. So that'll be kind of one that I missed. And I probably could have found other creative ways to solve that problem. There's always a creative way to solve a problem. But yeah, so that would be one. And I'm sure there'll be many more that eventually go public or whatever that we've missed as well. But that's one that comes top of mind.
On today's special segment, we have Landon Napier of Bill Group. Landon, can you tell us a story about a good or a bad pass, a story about a startup that you passed on?
Oh, yeah. I'll tell you about a bad pass. Okay. So early on, I met Patrick Collison, founder of Stripe. And at the time, I was CEO guy of Rackspace. I was busy working. And we were hanging out at this event and talking. And man, I must be the world's biggest jackalope. I mean, I sat there and never once said, hey, dude, how about if I invest $100 in your company? Right? It's like, So when I'm 13 years old, I figured out to pour my paper route money into Microsoft and Intel, right? When I'm 39 years old, I forgot to ask this brilliant guy across the table, hey, dude, how about $1,000 for some stock? So that's just like, hey, dude, this is the universe knocking. It's really loud. All you got to do is open the door. Man, I'm like, nah, resting. Not going to open the door today. Gonna have another beer.
Brutal.
I mean, just totally swing and a miss. I mean, I didn't even swing. It's like the meatball pitch over the plate. There you go.
Yikes.
It's brutal.
Well, I tell you what, Landon, when Newstack goes out to raise its next fund, I won't let you make the mistake again.
I'm going to hold you to that.
On today's special segment, we have Mac Conwell of Rare Breed Ventures. Mac, can you tell us a story about a good or a bad pass? A story about a startup that you passed on?
I haven't been in this game long enough to have companies that I passed on that went on to be great, right?
Okay.
But a good pass. So there was when I was working for the state, we had this one company come in and pitch us. The founder was well known in the local ecosystem. He had sold multiple businesses and this was another one. Everybody was on board. They're like, this is an amazing founder. It's a pretty good idea. He's got a great background. Let's just do it. And I was like, this is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. There's just no way we should do this. And they're like, what do you mean, Mac? Of course we need to do this. This is great. I'm like, he has no clue how he's going to get customers. He's going to build this and try to figure it out after he builds. This is a solution in search of a problem. That is like a clear no for me. Everybody fought me tooth and nail on it. I was like, look, y'all can do this if y'all want. I'm telling you, this ain't going nowhere. Ultimately, I got outvoted. They made the investment. And 12 months later, that company was shut down and he went on to go do something else.
Not going to say I told you so.
I'm not going to say I told you so. It's just like, we see enough company. Here's the thing, right? Pattern matching is a real thing. The problem is what you pattern match for, right? You should be pattern matching for business models, for go-to-market strategies, for industries, things like that. And, we've seen enough companies fail to see some glaring things. They're like, this is a common mistake founders make. Mm-hmm. If I see a founder making one of those common mistakes, they better be overcorrecting somewhere else. And the overcorrection cannot be your network. and your prior exits. Like I know like having prior exits help, but like if you have prior exits, but you still got that glaring like red light there, you know, when your check engine light comes on in your car, you can go a little longer with it, get it fixed up. Is this the right person's going to stop and get it fixed, or they're going to keep running until that car breaks down?
On today's special segment, we have Mike Smerklo of Next Coast Ventures. Mike, can you tell us a story about a good or a bad pass? A story about a startup that you passed on?
Oh yeah, so many. So I mean, I'll give the quick one. I'll give you a good yes on the pass. On the pass side, I would tell you we had one company. This is early on, and we absolutely loved the space. The trend was something we knew about. It was the future of e-commerce. It was solving the last mile problem. This was 5 years ago. It fit all the criteria. When you asked me that question I had, it's my third question. We spent a ton of time with the founder, and it was really when we probed him on what do you want to do with this business? And it became clear that the outcome he was playing for would be great for him, but didn't support a venture investment. And I say this all the time to entrepreneurs, Nick. I say, listen, there are great businesses. I mean, most of the U.S. economy is built on bootstrapping and non-venture. So let's make it clear. But you can own 30% of a business. It gets sold for $50 million. You make $15 million. That's a phenomenal outcome for you and your family. But for me, where I'm looking at what I'm underwriting to, and we talk very openly about this because it should be talked more about, hey, I've got to get an 8 to 10x. I expect it to take 7 years for that to happen. Let's do the math. And then turning to the founder and say, does that math work for you? And he said, no, it really doesn't. And so it was a great pass because it was one of those things where you're like, holy cow, we just saved ourselves 5 years of pain, right? Because it was like, he's like, no, I'd be happy to sell this business for $50 million, $15 million and point in my life that would change the game for me and I'd be done. Whoa, wait a minute. Okay. And so that's probably one of the more, it was early on in my career and it really helped me start to ask that question way early in the process. What do you want to get this business to be? And it's okay. 50 million is a great answer. It doesn't work for me. Let me show you my math. Mm-hmm. And every time I do this, entrepreneurs are like, oh, wow, that was really helpful because I didn't know how it worked. It creates alignment, it creates shared incentives, and it creates a vision for the future between the investor and the entrepreneur that should always be there, but my experience rarely is.
Is there a way you tease out, let's say that, the founder says, I'm going for $1 billion plus. Is there a way that you tease out or figure out is that going to change when they face severe adversity? Yeah,
I think that's a really hard thing to do. I think what we tend to do is a little bit on a curious mind to say, well, what do we have to believe to be true for that to happen? Let's go through it, right? On your marketplace. So what would your GMV have to be? What percentage of the market is that going to be? How many employees? Like, I think you can start to go down the second, third, and 10th question around it. Yeah. And then you can start to see the entrepreneur, does he or she actually understand all the steps that have to happen? Mm-hmm. At some point, do they say, ooh, that sounds hard, right? I think that's where you're really trying to drive back to that glass eater. And at the end of the day, if you lay all that on the table and they say, yeah, I still want to go, I'm a big believer you should also ask people to talk you out of this stuff. Like have 5 people try and talk you out of it. And if you blink, okay, well, that's a pretty good indication that your heart isn't into it. But that's what we try and do. And, sometimes we do it well, sometimes we don't.
It's like the Mike Tyson, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. Everyone wants to build an amazing tech company. And then when it's hard, that changes the equation.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's, to the expectations around it, knowing it's going to be hard is probably the most important thing. It gets back to that entrepreneur porn or Shark Tank and you watch it, you're like, oh, someone came up with a gadget and Mark Cuban gave him $1 million and woohoo. And you're like, yeah, now they got to go build it, right? And then they got to sell it. And all this stuff has to happen. And so that's, again, my energy around entrepreneurship is I know how important it is. I just want people to go into it and understanding what they're getting into.
That will conclude this installment of Investor Stories. If you're enjoying the program and would like to see it continue, take a moment and leave a 5-star review in iTunes. Also, if you'd like updates on new content from TFR, as well as the top 10 VC articles every week, go to fullratchet.net and sign up for the newsletter. Okay, that will wrap things up for today. Until next time, over-prepare, choose carefully, and invest confidently. Thanks for joining me.